You know that exact moment. The cursor is just blinking on your monitor, maybe a fresh Slack notification just popped up in the corner of your screen, and you feel absolutely nothing.
Right.
Well, nothing except maybe this very heavy, very real sense of just total exhaustion.
Yeah, that burnout.
Exactly. The job that, used to fire you up, the one you probably sacrificed a lot of weekends to actually get, it's just gone completely stale. But instead of just exploring why we burn out, today's sources actually offer a literal, like financial and psychological blueprint for jumping ship without ruining your life.
Which is key.
Right. We are taking a deep dive into this incredibly insightful framework on how to basically navigate a massive career switch. The mission here is to distill this source material into a really practical strategy that balances the hard-cold financial mechanics with the cognitive shifts required to actually execute a massive pivot.
Yeah, it's a lot to balance.
It is. And just to set the table right away, a quick editor's note here. Our discussion today is an exploration of informational strategies from the text, not formal financial advice.
Right, right.
You always have to consider your own circumstances and, consult a pro for the actual numbers.
Yeah. And that caveat actually mirrors the foundational premise of this entire framework, really.
Oh, how so?
Well, making a successful career leap is fundamentally different from just, running away in a blind panic.
Right.
If the impulse to quit is driven entirely by a really stressful Tuesday afternoon and a toxic boss, the resulting decisions, they're going to be messy. They're going to be reactive.
Totally. You just want out.
Exactly. But the source material frames this transition as an offensive move.
Okay.
A calculated and deliberate strategy rather than just a defensive retreat from burnout.
Right. Because before anyone even touches a resume or opens a new networking tab on LinkedIn, we have to diagnose why we are standing on the edge in the first place.
We do.
And the source material highlights this highly specific scenario that I think illustrates this perfectly. It asks us to imagine leading the augmented reality shopping and ads monetization teams at a major tech firm.
Yeah. And it's an incredibly telling example because it represents the pinnacle of a certain type of career trajectory.
Right, like you've made it.
Exactly. This isn't someone grinding away in middle management.
Go.
It's an executive role with a large team. Massive revenue responsibilities, significant status, and, high compensation. It is the definition of a dream job on paper. Yet the person in this scenario finds themselves completely disengaging.
Wow.
They are mentally checking out despite having literally everything they supposedly worked for.
The immediate instinct when you achieve the dream job and still feel miserable is usually just internal panic.
Oh, yeah.
You assume something is fundamentally broken within you. You think, well, if this doesn't make me happy, nothing will. So I just need to blow up my entire life and start from scratch.
Which is dangerous.
Very. And the text explicitly warns against that sort of scorched earth approach. The first step is to really take stock of the disconnect and identify the actual problem you are trying to solve by leaving.
Because jumping without diagnosing the problem, it basically guarantees you will replicate it.
Right.
To prevent that, the text outlines 3 required, they call them gut checks, to force a brutally honest self-inventory.
Okay, I love a good gut check. What's the first one?
The first is the values check.
Okay.
You have to evaluate whether your current role and the next move you're plotting actually align with your core values at this specific stage of your life.
Right, because they change.
Exactly. Values are not static. What drove you at 25 might feel entirely hollow at 35.
Reading through the mechanics of that values check, I kept thinking about how people try to solve internal malaise with, like, external geography.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like doing a massive career pivot without auditing your values is essentially like moving to a new city just to escape your personal problems.
Yes.
You pack up, you drive across the country, you sign a lease on a shiny new apartment, and you start unpacking your bags, only to realize you accidentally brought yourself with you.
You can't escape yourself.
You can't. Your anxieties, your need for external validation, your poor boundaries, they all made the trip.
Yep.
So if your core value has shifted from, say, seeking status to seeking autonomy, jumping to a different mega corporation with a slightly better title, it won't fix the exhaustion. You will land in the exact same psychological trap.
That is such a good way to look at it. The human brain is remarkably adept at mistaking a change in scenery for a change in self.
Wow.
The values check forces you to confront the self. But once you have established that the new direction actually serves your current values, the text pivots to the external reality.
Which is?
The runway check.
Oh, okay.
This asks whether you have the literal financial and emotional capacity for the transition. Because big leaps, they always extract a heavier toll than the initial models suggest. They consume more time, they drain more capital, and they demand just a massive amount of cognitive bandwidth.
The inclusion of an emotional runway in that check is, I think, a crucial distinction.
Absolutely.
We are so culturally conditioned to budget our dollars, but we almost never budget our emotional reserves.
No, we don't.
People jump into a demanding new venture while simultaneously dealing with, I don't know, a move, a new baby, or a health crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And their emotional runway just evaporates in a week.
Which is exactly why the third step, the support check, functions as a fail-safe for that emotional runway.
Okay, what's the support check?
The text asks, do you have a small, vetted circle of trusted people?
Oh, vetted.
Yes. This isn't about having a broad network of cheerleaders who just say, yeah, go for it.
Right.
It requires a core group who can deliver brutally honest, unvarnished feedback when you're making a misstep.
You need a personal board of directors.
Exactly. A personal board of directors who provide a stable anchor when the inherent chaos of the transition makes you, question your own sanity.
Which it will. But confirming your internal values and securing your support system, I mean, that really only solves half the equation.
Sure.
We know what we want to build, and we aren't just fleeing a bad Tuesday. The real friction happens when we try to quantify the actual tangible risk of the leap.
And this is where the text introduces its most compelling paradigm shift, I think.
Okay.
It suggests treating a major career transition through the lens of an investment portfolio.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. If you examine institutional investing, the core metrics are risk, return, and diversification.
Right. So the audience listening to this deep dive definitely understands the concept of asymmetric bets in the context of venture capital.
Right.
Capping the downside while exposing yourself to basically unlimited upside. But applying a VC framework to a human being's livelihood, I mean, that feels entirely different than applying it to a corporate balance sheet. I actually have to push back on the metaphor here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, VC firms expect 9 out of 10 of their startups to fail completely. They rely on the one unicorn to basically subsidize the graveyard. As individuals, we don't have 10 parallel lives or 10 simultaneous careers to diversify our risk.
No, we don't.
We have one mortgage, one family to feed. We cannot absorb a 90% failure rate on our life choices.
That critique of the VC metaphor is entirely valid if we assume the individual is adopting the VC failure rate.
Right.
But the text is very careful to extract only the VC upside formula while mandating a strictly capped downside.
Okay, explain that.
An asymmetric career bet requires that the worst-case scenario doesn't permanently damage your baseline. The source material provides examples of this, like moving from a traditional corporate path into a nascent, volatile industry like social gaming during your 20s. Or leaving a really secure corporate structure to co-found a business later in life.
I mean, on paper, both of those moves sound like incredibly high-risk gambles.
They carry high variance, certainly.
Yeah.
But the downside was survivable in both cases because the individuals retained their underlying assets.
Their skills.
Exactly. Their hard skills, their professional network, and a financial safety net. If the social gaming startup folded or the new business failed to find product market fit, they hadn't burned their bridges.
Right.
They could re-enter the traditional market, perhaps even at a premium, because they had acquired specialized operational experience in the trenches.
That makes sense.
So the asymmetric bet means the upside could be, transformational wealth or total autonomy.
Yeah.
But the downside is simply returning to your previous baseline with maybe a bruised ego.
Okay, returning to the baseline might be the financial reality of a failed bet, but we really can't ignore the psychological damage of the attempt.
Oh, for sure.
The text spends a significant amount of time detailing what it calls the emotional aftershocks.
Yes.
Changing your career trajectory isn't just about learning new software or, adjusting to a different commute. It is fundamentally destabilizing.
It strips away your whole operating system.
Exactly.
When you leave a long-term role, you are losing more than a paycheck. You are dismantling your daily routines, your assumed competence, and often your primary social fabric, given how much human interaction is tied to the workplace.
That's true.
The text emphasizes that every single reinvention brings waves of profound doubt.
And the mechanism for surviving that doubt is what the source calls expecting the dip.
Right.
The text argues that life inevitably gets harder before it gets easier during a transition.
Always.
If you don't anticipate the dip, you will misinterpret the immediate stress of the new role as a signal that you just made the wrong choice.
Yes, the "I've made a huge mistake" feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you map it out in advance, if you acknowledge that the first 6 months will involve feeling completely incompetent, disconnected, and just overwhelmed, you reframe the suffering.
Yeah.
It stops being a warning siren and simply becomes the anticipated cost of entry.
You neutralize the panic by predicting it.
Right.
However, cognitive reframing has its limits.
Sure.
Anticipating the emotional dip is pretty ineffective if you are simultaneously drowning in financial panic.
Oh, man. Yeah.
This brings us to the operational core of the text, moving from emotional theory to literal bank accounts. The emotional dip is impossible to survive if you are flat broke.
The text lays down a absolutely non-negotiable golden rule for this entire framework. Never jump without a financial parachute.
Never.
And it defines that parachute with absolute rigidity. Before making any changes, the mandate is to build a 6 to 12-month runway of liquidity.
That means having enough cash on hand, totally unencumbered, to cover every baseline expense for up to a full year.
A 12-month runway is standard, prudent financial advice. But pulling that much liquidity out of the market to just sit in a high-yield savings account, I mean, that goes against every modern instinct we have to maximize returns.
It hurts.
It does. It is a massive psychological hurdle to watch that capital just sit idle. But the text frames it beautifully, actually, noting that this runway is the difference between making bold choices and desperate ones.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. It's the mechanics of decision-making under duress. Having a 12-month runway is like grocery shopping on a full stomach.
Yes.
Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and long-term planning, it's fully engaged. You walk down the aisles, you stick to your list, and you make strategic choices because you aren't driven by an immediate physiological deficit.
The contrast, of course, is shopping while financially starving.
Exactly. When you have no runway, your peripheral vision literally narrows.
Wow, yeah.
It's not just that you buy the metaphorical junk food, it's that your higher-order thinking completely shuts down. Your brain recognizes the lack of capital as an acute threat to your survival. So you lose the cognitive ability to negotiate a good salary. You can't be selective about the culture of the new firm, and you certainly can't hold out for an asymmetric opportunity.
No, you grab the first terrible job that comes along simply to secure calories for tomorrow.
Right. You trade one stale job for another, completely defeating the purpose of the initial leap.
And the behavioral economics of that dynamic are exactly why the source insists on a strategy of strict compartmentalization.
Okay.
It's often called mental accounting. You must keep your growth portfolio entirely separated from your safety net.
Right.
You might be exposing capital to high-risk, high-reward environments, options trading, angel investing, or equity in a new venture. But that capital sits in an entirely different mental and literal bucket.
The text is so adamant about firewalling the survival money. And the reason you separate them isn't just about clean accounting, it's about cognitive load.
Yes.
When you merge the two, and you see your safety net fluctuate with a volatile stock market, your amygdala registers it as an immediate threat. Absolute panic, seeing your rent money drop by 4% on a Tuesday, triggers the exact desperation that leads to the terrible career choices we just discussed.
By firewalling the 12-month runway in stable liquid assets, you are literally purchasing emotional regulation.
Right.
The text also addresses the specific anxiety of unpredictable cash flow, which is, the defining characteristic of a pivot into freelance, consulting, or founding a startup.
Oh, yeah. Unpredictable is the word.
The framework solution is to automate the unpredictability.
Which, okay, the text suggests maintaining automated investments even when your income is completely erratic. But logically, if a freelancer has a zero revenue month, an automated withdrawal into a retirement account could trigger an overdraft.
Right.
So how does the framework reconcile the math of automation with the reality of volatile income?
It reconciles it through percentages and dollar cost averaging rather than, fixed fiat amounts.
Okay.
The text emphasizes a really profound behavioral principle here. Continuity matters more than timing. The goal is to enforce the discipline of the habit. scaling the contribution to match the income, even if it's a micro contribution during a really lean month.
Right.
The psychological benefit of dollar cost averaging in this scenario is that it removes the emotional paralysis of trying to time the market while you are already completely overwhelmed by the career transition.
Right. You don't want to add another layer of stress.
Exactly. You don't wait for a mythical windfall month to invest a massive lump sum. You maintain the relentless habit of paying your future self, which reinforces your identity as someone who is building long-term wealth despite the short-term chaos of the new career.
That concept of identity is actually the perfect bridge to the final piece of the framework.
Okay.
We've audited our values, modeled the asymmetric bets, and firewalled our finances to prevent cognitive collapse.
Yeah.
But the source material makes a really compelling argument that while you protect your finances with discipline, you protect your potential with mindset.
That is so true.
You can have a year of living expenses sitting safely in the bank, but if your internal narrative collapses under the pressure, the transition will fail anyway.
Starting over invariably triggers heavy, complex emotions, the most prominent being a profound sense of failure.
Yeah.
It is a strange paradox. You are actively choosing to step into a new arena, yet your brain interprets the loss of your previous status as a defeat.
It's like your ego screams that you are starting from scratch because you couldn't hack it at the top of the old mountain.
Yes.
The text points out how universal this is, noting that professionals routinely start over at 25, 35, and well into their 50s, pivoting from finance to tech or from tech to media.
Right.
The specific industry mechanics matter far less than the internal narrative. The ultimate cognitive reframe the text provides is a direct counter to the ego's panic.
Right.
It says, this isn't me losing something, it's me choosing growth. Starting over isn't failure, it's power.
I love that. And to operationalize that reframe, the text provides two highly specific mindset tools. Okay.
The first is an exercise in temporal distancing. It advises writing a letter to your future self, specifically 5 years down the line.
5 years, okay.
You document exactly why you are making this terrifying leap today, outlining the stagnation you are leaving behind and the autonomy you are trying to capture.
The genius of the time machine letter isn't about accurately predicting where you'll be in 5 years.
No, not at all.
It's a mechanism to force your current self to see the courage in the decision rather than just the immediate fear.
Yes.
When you frame the narrative for a future version of yourself, you elevate the perspective. You realize that the short-term suffering of the dip is actually a necessary gift you are giving to your future self.
It deliberately shifts your focal length from the acute discomfort of the present transition to the long-term arc of your life.
Right.
The second mindset tool provided by the text is even more immediate. The identity shift.
Okay, what's that?
It argues that success requires changing how you introduce yourself to the world on day one.
Day one, yes. The directive is to stop using tentative language. Don't walk into a networking event and say, well, I'm exploring a career pivot, or I'm trying to get into content creation.
Right.
You introduce yourself as the terminal goal. You say, I am a founder, or I am a creator.
I have to challenge the psychological safety of that directive, though.
Really? Why?
Well, if you introduce yourself as a founder to an established professional before you've actually incorporated a business or, generated a single dollar of revenue, the resulting imposter syndrome could be absolutely crippling.
It is intense.
Like, does faking the title risk alienating people? Or is that linguistic trick actually a necessary lever to force your brain to accept the new reality?
If we look at the mechanics of self-perception, it is absolutely a necessary lever.
Boy.
The initial flash of imposter syndrome is guaranteed, but consider the alternative.
Okay.
When you say, I'm just trying this out, you are consciously giving yourself psychological permission to quit the moment the dip gets too painful.
Ah, I see.
You are keeping one foot firmly planted out the door to protect your ego.
Okay.
By stating, I am a founder, you are burning the ships. You are publicly committing to the identity, which forces your internal behavior to rise to the level of your external declaration. It eliminates the escape hatch.
You are staking a definitive claim on your own future, which forces you to execute.
Exactly.
But the text also acknowledges that for some, making the definitive leap and, burning the ships today is simply mathematically or emotionally impossible.
Sure.
The runway might not be fully funded, or the emotional toll of their current life stage might be completely maxed out.
The framework accommodates that reality by focusing on momentum over magnitude.
Right.
You don't have to detonate your current life in a single afternoon to begin the transition. If the asymmetric bet is currently too large, the strategy shifts to executing microsteps.
Like setting up a targeted coffee meeting with a mentor in the desired field. Registering the domain name for the eventual business. Committing 2 hours every Saturday morning to a highly specific side project.
These actions seem negligible in isolation, but they serve a critical psychological function. They generate forward momentum.
They really do.
They signal to your brain that you are capable of executing change and that the door to a new life is unlocked.
Without requiring you to endure the immediate financial stress of jumping without a parachute.
Exactly. It maintains the offensive posture of the strategy while you build the necessary capital.
The source material ultimately provides a comprehensive architecture for dismantling a stale career and building something new. You don't just run from the exhaustion, you diagnose it with a values check.
Right.
You map out asymmetric bets where the upside is transformational, but the downside is entirely survivable. You painstakingly fund a 12-month financial parachute so your prefrontal cortex remains online when it's time to negotiate.
That's key.
And you deliberately rewrite your internal narrative, choosing the power of starting over instead of mourning the loss of an old title.
It is a rigorous blueprint for reinvention. But to close our analysis of the text, I want to pivot back to that temporal distancing exercise we discussed.
A letter to your future self.
Right, the letter. The text uses it to capture the courage of leaping into the unknown. But what if you inverted the exercise?
Inverted it how?
Imagine sitting down tonight and writing a letter from your future self, dated exactly 5 years from today, assuming you made the decision to stay in the exact same stale, exhausting job you hold right now.
Oh, wow.
Think about the specific language of that letter. Think about the compounded resentment, the physical toll of the burnout, and the profound regret of knowing you had the framework to leave, but chose the familiar misery instead.
That is heavy.
When you weigh the temporary, chaotic dip of the leap into the unknown against the absolute, guaranteed certainty of staying stuck, which letter actually scares you more?
Which letter actually scares you more? So the next time you are staring at that blinking cursor, feeling the weight of a professional life you have completely outgrown, remember that you hold the pen for both of those letters. The choice of which one becomes reality is entirely yours.